I am joined by Spyger, the designer behind the Huntsman class that's crowdfunding as this episode drops. We talk about how the class is a ranger class for Draw Steel, but how it moves away from the pet theme that's covered by the beastheart and goes in the opposite direction as a monster hunter. A monster hunter to hunt the monsters. I'm John Denor, and this is Goblin Points. Welcome to Goblin Points, Kyle.
Hey there.
So, give us an introduction of who you are and how you ended up in the Matt Colville / Draw Steel community.
Yeah, I actually just reviewed this. I threw a little bit of a blurb in my, quote, story on the Huntsman backer kit, so it's fresh in mind. I have always been into games generally, but particularly video games. I think the first thing I can remember is playing The Legend of Zelda when I was 3, and I just kept up with games for, 30 years since then. And I had some nerdy friends back in high school who were big into Magic the Gathering, and probably as a consequence of that, D&D, and so they pulled me into that. And we played it so badly. We did everything wrong. Just clueless, hot-headed, 16-year-olds. So we were antagonistic play and hardcore power gaming. And at one point, one of my friends got really mad that we killed his Skull Lord. So he plopped down 2 more Skull Lords. And we just laughed him out of the room. We left on bad terms. But I saw the potential of role-playing games and kind of stayed enchanted by that. Fortunately, I found better groups later on. And long story short, come 2015, I had a couple of different friends drag me back into the hobby, and I got way into it. I was a big fan of a now defunct actual play channel called Role Play. They were just inverting the Critical Role thing, I guess, where Critical Role, ROLE. So they did Role Play, ROLL play. But they had GMs like Stephen Lumpkin, who, as far as I know, is mostly a video game designer. He's done some Warhammer stuff and whatnot. And then Adam Coble, who is a co-author behind Dungeon World, and ran one hell of a Stars Without Number campaign. But they did a really excellent short podcast series teaching people how to actually GM well. And there was not a lot of that at the time. It was actually near the time when Matt Colville started his channel too. I mean, this is around 2015, so
yeah,
when a bunch of people were getting into the hobby. I guess that was part of the surge. But yeah, I've played all kinds since then. I've been running usually 1, sometimes 2 games a week, and then I got more and more into designing. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an archaeologist because of Jurassic Park, but then I wanted to be a game designer. So now I guess I'm doing the thing. I've done some mods for when the Oblivion remaster came out and Monster Hunter and things like that, and I was trying to remake the D&D martial classes in a more action-oriented way, but now Draw Steel's out, so I don't have to do that. So I figured I'd make a unique class.
Yeah, that's a great segue to the Huntsman, which is the class you're currently crowdfunding, both as we're recording this and as the episode drops. Can you give what's the elevator pitch for the Huntsman as a class?
Oh, there's a few. How memey do I want to be about it? We'll go on the safe side. The elevator pitch, I suppose, is I just felt there was a space open for, especially like some more modern popular characters. Speaking of 2015, that's when The Witcher 3 came out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Game dev takes a long time. But yeah, if you are into characters like Geralt of Rivia or Trevor Belmont, or maybe you go back to like Dante from Devil May Cry. Apparently, I really, really need to watch Blade. Yeah, those like monster hunters who have some monster in them. That's what we're going for with Huntsman. So it's like a a weapons-based character. They do sort of fighter type things, but then there's that special sauce. They have a little bit of magic and like the darker side to them. And I've been encouraged to crank things up a bit. So now, from level 1, you can actually full-on transform into a monster. So that's more taken from like Bloodborne or Mob Psycho 100, where if you crank that stress up enough, then kind of lose your humanity and freak out.
This is the cruelty resource that the class has, correct?
Yes. Yeah, so I wanted to have a resource that persisted between encounters, other than victories, I guess. It's kind of a resource. To have the sensation of like gradually building up toward like being more, like showing more of that monstrous side, and eventually having potentially a transformation. And so I needed a number that could persist through encounters, and I think very few people have done much consideration of it yet, but every class in Drasteel does have 2 resources. They have a heroic resource and an epic resource that they get at level 10.
Yes.
And that does persist through encounters. So I was like, well, what if I just grab that and bring it down to level 1?
Ah, yes. I did notice you calling it an epic resource, and I was initially I was confused whether or not you'd accidentally like named it the same thing as the epic resource, but that's very, very intentional. Then I actually to bring that down to level 1.
Yeah, it's really nice too because it makes things work natively with like Forged Steel and Codex presumably, and it's like, yeah, we already have this framework for this. It's just in most cases it's relegated to 10th level.
Nice side effect.
Hey, whatever makes less work for me.
Sure.
Work smarter, not harder.
I was wondering because I've been in games where someone's played the Huntsman, and I especially coming from the outside before having read the class, I've now read the preview that you've included in the crowdfunder. But cruelty as a resource and talking about your cruelty being higher and increasing, it sounds really sinister, but I guess that's part of the flavor of the class.
Oh, definitely. And it's a little tough because people may or may not be familiar with kind of the source material I'm drawing from. It's like what is ensuring the class is not oatmeal, right? But I think Geralt's probably the most popular example where you potentially see him in cases where, just circumstances push him to the edge because of like discrimination against witchers or just, monsters being overwhelming. And so he's like chugging weird potions, and like any witcher goes through like, the mutagenic process. And so, one day you might see him and it's like, oh, it's just some like pale, white-haired warrior. And then other times he's got like black veins and cat's eyes, and he's, butchering people up. And it's like, all right, is this person more like a monster or a man? And yeah, that's kind of the theme that I'm going for.
So the cruelty it resets on respites.
Right.
And you can increase it throughout as you play, including whenever you use the catch breath maneuver, it automatically increases by 1.
Yeah, when the director uses malice, you are like picking up on that energy, and I actually was originally calling cruelty malice, but
Oh.
that was potentially confusing, and there were some other reasons not to do that. And so, it was very much mirroring the director's side there. And in the mechanics of the Huntsman, there tends to be a back and forth with malice and cruelty, where you're kind of amping up each other's being a jerk. The meaner the director gets, the meaner you get, and vice versa. I may have lost track of the original question.
No, I was just wondering, trying to dig down into the cruelty mechanic, because you've got this growing resource that keeps going further and further, or higher and higher throughout the, in quotation, adventuring day.
Right.
And you've also got a corresponding table that gives you different effects based on how much cruelty you've accumulated.
Yes, your monstrousness manifests in progressively more ways. So probably the closest analogy in the base game to that is growing ferocity for the Fury, where in the space of one encounter, your resources potentially building up and you're getting bonuses off of that. This concept is expanded out through all the encounters until you have a respite, and so it's a slower, gradual process. So like, a Fury may be getting between like 3 and 6 ferocity each turn, and each 2 ferocity there's a new level of buffs from that chart. Huntsman is much slower. You're getting like 1 or 2 cruelty per turn, and you only hit a new level every 3 cruelty. So you may only go up like 1 level in the space of encounter, but there are 3 effects associated with each level, one of which is negative. You become more powerful in, ideally, ways that can be sort of interpreted as monstrous, but you're also becoming like more isolated from your team and like contributing to the monster's side potentially. For example, the big one is once you get close to transforming, once you're up at 9 cruelty with 12 being the max, then your allies can't heal you, but you get some significant damage immunity. And so it's like, I'm starting to almost like Hulk out. Like, I'm really tough and mean and whatnot. I'm getting my edgelord on, especially because I'm not taking anybody's help. It's all me. But if you don't want to lean into the monstrous stuff, then you can spend your cruelty in a couple of different ways to augment your abilities. Each ability has an additional effect for spending cruelty, kind of in a way similar to how all the talent abilities have strain effects. So it's up to you to sort of moderate, do I want to build up these passive benefits, or do I want to spend my cruelty for upfront effectiveness? And I think players will find that there's like a certain kind of strike zone where they want to get their cruelty up to a point and then generally spend it to like maintain that level, but also get to use their like cool extra add-ons to abilities.
You included some suggestions or tips, I guess, for players playing the Huntsman at the end of the document.
It's kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
Huntsman
the
Player's
Huntsman
Guide,
Player's Guide, where you mention that you wanna take a bit of damage because you want to both make use of, I guess, some of your damage immunity, but also you want to use Catch Breath to build up your cruelty, and you've added that rider on Catch Breath to make it a more desirable maneuver for the players to use.
Yeah, I think typically in Draw Steel, good tactics involve never needing to use Catch Breath because it's it's not directly contributing in that race against the enemy, right? It's just keeping you alive, and there's more efficient ways to spend recoveries, like healing grace or tactician marks or whatever it is, where you're kind of getting recovery spend as a rider or like a cheap resource cost that's not actually taking like a maneuver or an action or anything. And you certainly will probably want to do that for the most part still. But the idea behind getting cruelty from catch breath is, and like it almost makes me wish catch breath had a different name, like fight on or dig deep, or the idea is like you're just persevering through your own stubborn, heroic or potentially villainous conviction, and that's stressful. That makes you more likely to stop pulling your punches and bring out that monstrous nature. And like on a mechanical side, you're using catch breath when things are going badly, when you're getting damaged too quickly for your allies to be healing you. So you have to augment that, and getting some cruelty on top of it helps you out in those troublesome moments where it's like, hey, you get more resource when things are going poorly. Plus, like I said, once you get up into high cruelty, the other players can't heal you. So what you'll probably want to do is go into that high tier of monstrous manifestation while you have some decent stamina still, and between using catch breath and having that damage immunity and using some other techniques to pump up your cruelty faster, you'll probably be shooting for getting to that 12 cruelty mark where you'd go through your dark metamorphosis and literally take on a stat block of a monster with an extra stamina pool on top of your own.
Yes, because when you reach that 12, you do have the option of burning a recovery to reduce your cruelty by 2. But if you choose to, I guess, stay at 12, you transform into a monster depending on your subclass.
Right. Yeah, there's a unique monster for each subclass. And the subclasses, I guess I'll throw in the other pitch for Huntsman and kind of the origin. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably way into RPGs, and one of those probably includes D&D, which means you may have seen 50 bajillion Ranger reworks because people were not happy with the Ranger in 5th edition. And I have never been into the Ranger. Sorry if that's blasphemous. But I think it has been having an identity crisis, and Huntsman started out as my idea to resolve that, where I figured we need to expand this concept, kind of like how Thief became Rogue and got kind of more archetypes around that. My thinking was, like, if fighters are they adhere to like martial traditions of different civilizations and whatnot, then Rangers can be experts in like monstrous combat, essentially, like the battle techniques of the wilds. And instead of having favorite enemy be a bland numerical bonus that comes up in certain situations, that could be your subclass. So the Huntsman, the subclass, is determined by the kinds of monsters you have an affinity for. And it's not that you get bonuses against them, it's that your techniques are either suited for them particularly, in that, like, they may do the damage type corresponding to them, or tactically be suited, but also you can use their techniques. So maybe the best example of that would be the Night Watcher Huntsman is mostly inspired by like Castlevania, where you have people who, for the most part, are going after, or at least their techniques are based on, like undead and accursed enemies. So they wield some divine magic the way that like a censor might, but they also use dark magic So like they can become ethereal like a ghost can. They can do like a ghoul style tongue lash, that kind of thing. You know, they can utilize the sort of the spooky, you know, nighttime enemy like flavored techniques. So yeah, I feel like that's a lot better than just, oh yeah, you get +2 on skill checks relating to orcs.
You've got 3 subclasses included in the class as it is, and part of the stretch goals is including up to 2 extra subclasses if you reach them.
3 even, actually.
3 even. I haven't read this this well enough.
Well, the 6th one, which is a crazy number to say. I mean, I guess Elementalist will end up with 7, right?
Sure.
Like I said, I was never a big fan of the Ranger. So the 6th subclass is actually the Ranger subclass. The working title is Woad Weaver. And so the idea there is leaning into like plants and beasts and more like natural wilderness druidy stuff. I'm looking at getting a co-designer on that who is more into those themes. Because I'm more into like monster stuff.
The reason I pivoted into the subclasses because you mentioned the Night Watcher, which is Castlevania themed, I guess.
Yeah.
The other 2 subclasses are Blood Warrior and Planeswalker. What do those 2 subclasses kind of lean on as inspiration, and where are they going thematically?
Planeswalker, I'll start with. It's more straightforward. It is like the Far Realms, Eldritch Horrors, Psionics subclass. I'd expect more Miminex and Time Raiders to be this, and like for it to show up more in like the timescapey, spacey campaigns. And it was very convenient to have sort of 3 quintessential monsters in this category to base abilities off of, being Mind Flayers, Aboleths, and Beholders. Or you could use like the new Draw Steel names for these things. What do we have? Voiceless Talkers, Olothex, and Overminds, I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, if you like those and you want to have abilities like them, and also basically Jedi powers, because, you know, Huntsman is like the class abilities are largely based around like weapons and traps and such, whereas the subclasses are more where the like magics and monster abilities come in. So if you're wanting a psionic character that wields like, you know, a sword or a crossbow or a lightsaber, dare I say, and can like push people around with telekinesis and that kind of thing, then yeah, that's your bag. And then Blood Warrior is kind of a fusion of 2 ideas. So the name is riffing on the Blood War, the notion of demons and devils fighting, and it has some flavor from both of those kind of monster categories. But it also, like at least in Draw Steel, I don't recall either of those leaning into blood at all. That's more coming from my Bloodborne inspirations. So the Blood Warrior, sort of half of the abilities and like passives are relating to blood, and that like when you are bleeding or winded, which was formerly known as bloodied, then you get bonuses, and like you're better at fighting other creatures that are bleeding or winded. Yeah, it tends to be kind of a savage, like more like brutal and quick warrior. That's like I could imagine Karlach from Baldur's Gate 3 as a blood warrior, being more kind of like a savage combatant and bringing in like hellfire and that kind of thing. Oh, I guess I should mention Devil May Cry as well, and even
Right.
Inuyasha. Actually, there's a bunch of white-haired, red-clad half-demons who fight monsters. You're not obligated to have white hair or red clothes, but
Since we're on the topic of the subclasses, the two subclasses mentioned in the stretch goals, those are the Dragon Acolyte, apart from the Woodweaver, the Dragon Acolyte and Spell Warder. What are the ideas behind those subclasses?
so Spell Warder definitely stems from Witchers, and they're kind of dual-natured. And I'll add the caveat that like these are very much work in progress. I don't have a bunch of stuff laid out and tested for these yet, but the Spell Warder has both an element of like learning some basic magics in the way that like a wizard or elementalist might. Particularly, I think they'll specialize in magical barriers, and the other part is more like creatures resulting from sorcery, or like like hybrid creatures like owlbears and chimeras, or like golems, those sort of constructs, the kinds of monsters that are the result of, intentionally or otherwise, wizards messing around. Oh, and Dragon Acolyte, the main inspiration for that may be like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, where they tend to have, I think they all have, all those games have a cult where people kind of worship and aspire to become like dragons. And I am also kind of folding in giants, lumping them under the category of like the ancients. Like I think one of the abilities right now is named like Might of the Elders. So yeah, you're kind of like a big game hunter leaning into elemental magic and getting real brawny. Like I imagine it'll sort of end up almost being like a multi-class of Huntsman and Fury, in that it'll probably tend to be kind of like might melee brawler with a bunch of elemental stuff.
In the crowdfunder, you're also including, apart from the class, new kits and treasures and other stuff. And I'm intrigued by the kits that you're including, because they are they all ranged focused?
No, although I am highlighting that.
Yeah.
The Heroes book as it stands is very much up my alley, which is melee heavy. I love hitting stuff with other stuff, and there's a lot of classes that tend to do that in the core Draw Steel book. Oh gosh, I got it ready. I have a spreadsheet of the kits, and if I remember right, I want to say there are just 3 purely ranged kits in the Heroes book. Arcane Archer, Sniper, Rapid Fire, and then there's like a couple of, I tend to call them hybrid kits, that have both melee and range bonuses, being the Raider and Ranger. So part of the impetus behind, well, maybe a lot of the impetus behind Huntsman, is kind of filling out what I perceive as gaps in the Heroes book. And so like I could see it kind of filling at least half of the slot that Ranger would fill if there was a thing in this game. I love that MCDM and I are kind of splitting up the work, in that they are just tackling the pet element, and then I can handle the other stuff, because yeah, it, like, if you're coming from 5th edition and you wanted Beastmaster to be a whole class and Hunter to be a whole class, then that's essentially what you're getting. But yeah, I felt like I needed to add more ranged options, especially, and throw in a couple more like hybrid options while I'm at it. So even if you're looking to play like a Shadow or a Tactician or whatever it is, focusing more on ranged weapons, then my stuff could be helpful. And those kits are available for free, by the way. I should have them just kind of automatically up on Forge Steel at some point here. You can download the source book or the PDF off the crowdfunder right now. But yeah, so we've added 4 more range kits, which is, I guess, just over doubling the range kit options. And then there's a couple of hybrid kits, like one I had to get in there, and I realized I even needed to tweak it slightly to match the artwork that I commissioned for the Huntsman, because I have them wielding a whip and a crossbow. There wasn't any kit that could do that. I was like, oh no, I've made art that you can't actually emulate. But no, we have a kit that I particularly like now, the Excoriator. Or no. Yeah, the Excoriator. And in the flavor text, I kind of poke some fun. I say, like, this is favored by vampire hunters and adventurous archaeologists. So if you think of, like, Indiana Jones with the whip and the gun, that's kind of what this is. And then I've even thrown in a couple of other melee kits where combinations of weapons and armor didn't exist. So, like, there was no way to do light armor with a heavy weapon. So now I have the Crusher kits. And then it seemed wrong to just have the one kit with 12 stamina, shining armor. Especially because it's so defense-oriented. So I was like, alright, I'm big on polearms. I love my polearms. I actually just commented on, like, somebody else's thing they're making recently, where they were like, I think they were scolding Dark Souls for calling something a scythe. It's like, no, it's a bardiche. Get it right. It's not a halberd, it's a billhook. They're different. But anyway, yeah. So there's the strong arm now, which has heavy armor and a polearm. Or this might be outdated, actually. I think they're called the Battle Bully, and their signature ability is called Strong Arm, where you can kind of manhandle people. So yeah, if you want to be more of a aggressive, bullying 12 stamina kit instead of the shining armor, taunt things, protect your buddies, then that you got there.
Oh yeah, here we go. Battle Bully with a strong arm. Actually, I can just push you around. Speaking of the art for the crowdfunder, you have a lovely piece of art at the top for the banner image. And you're using...
Forward all compliments to Mikolaj Dolhun, who I was lucky enough to stumble across on Reddit. And we connected so easily. He's like, well, he says, since he's Polish, he's obligated to be into The Witcher. And we're also both big into, like, FromSoft games. And coincidentally, actually, I didn't know this until recently. He saw me posting about Huntsman, and I mentioned Mob Psycho 100 as an inspiration. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, I love that too. And so apparently we just share a lot of media preferences, and so we connected easily, and he rendered my poorly described imaginings so beautifully. Really, that's my first time commissioning art, and it just makes me want to do a bunch more. So give me money and I'll get more cool art.
Yeah, according to the text, you're planning on using Mikolaj for any more art that you will be able to commission.
I'm thinking he'll probably do those monsters within that each subclass can transform into. Go check out his stuff. His monsters, oh man, they're peak. But I'll be utilizing other artists as well. For example, my sister, actually, I'll be giving her a go on, she's actually whipping up a logo right now for Chuckling Chest Games, and she's done some projects in the past. Like, I'm big into cocktails. That was my COVID hobby. It should have been working out, but it was cocktails. And for a friend of ours, she made, I think she painted them. I'm not a visual art person, but like little depictions of those fancy drinks with all the garnishes and whatnot. And it's like, hey, you'd probably be pretty good at also making like potions and bombs and like that kind of thing for my Huntsman arsenal here.
In the timeline, the estimated timeline, I should say, on the crowdfunder page, you're planning for a release already in October.
Right.
And that kind of aligns with, you mentioned somewhere in the text that you've done all 10 levels, but not necessarily everything for each of the subclasses already.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm toying around a lot with the 8th level subclass features. But I have all the abilities and all the core class features. I think I remember you talking to Surfing Bird regarding the Scion, and he was expressing the difficulties of like pushing through on those upper levels, like trying to find the spark for those last few things. But yeah, before too long here, like presumably, like I think I mentioned, I want to have a preview out in June for backers. That'll probably be fully featured and at least somewhat tested of those 3 starting subclasses for Huntsman. So, if people are really gunning for having all their levels at that point, if like they want to start a Huntsman in a campaign now, then theoretically that should be okay. But yeah, I mainly wanted to have the full thing ready for Crack the Sun, because that's what a bunch of Draw Steel fans are hyped for right now.
Right,
and,
yes.
So yeah, for that big ambitious campaign that I am betting a bunch of people will want to start when or soon after it releases. It's like, alright, gotta have my class all ready to go for that. And just regarding timeline, at least with those core 3 subclasses, way more than halfway done on the rules text for those. So October is something I'm super confident in being able to do, especially because we were talking about a little bit before we went live, or recording, not live technically. A lot of homebrewers and designers and whatnot, they're spinning a lot of plates. I am not. I am wholly focused on this project. So, yeah, I'm confident that I can deliver on the estimated timeline there.
One of the questions that I got from my patrons was regarding testing and how much testing you're doing of the Huntsman.
Yes. I have made a lot of friends quickly over in the Drosteel Brewery because I'm running and participating in so many tests. That has kind of unintentionally turned into my main hobby. My Steam library cries in loneliness as I continue to neglect it in favor of just Drosteel all the time. I think I've been averaging between like 3 and 4 playtests a week. I mean, now, a lot of those may not include a Huntsman, because I just want to check out what everybody else is making and give them feedback. And that makes them come and give me feedback, and you got the whole ecosystem going there. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we recently hit 20 playtest sessions for Huntsman, and I have 2,200 words in my changelog that I've been maintaining. I'm the kind of guy who loves to scroll through patch notes for video games and things, so it's been fun to make my own as I've been going along. And yeah, there's been all kinds of iteration and like refining and rewording things to where they work from the perspective of people that are not the designer, me. And I am very grateful to have had some harsh and brutal feedback at times. I'll shout out Zetasophos and Schmarauder for basically just being like, this isn't fun enough. Like, these are rookie numbers. You got to pump this up. You need to, draw steelify this, make it more extreme and unique, and it's like, you know what? You're right. Let's do it. So we've gone through some bigger changes. Like a good example of that is Dark Metamorphosis, where you can straight up turn into a monster. I was originally planning that as a 6th level feature. That's where a lot of classes get more significant things like that. Like mechanically, Huntsman, I imagine, is kind of a sibling to the Shadow. They're both like a relatively squishy weapon specialist, like damage oriented. Although, if they were playing a hide and seek, then Shadow would always be on hide, and Huntsman would always be on seek. But
nice.
Yeah, Dark. So yeah, Shadow has, what is it, like Umbral Shroud, or like they have some transformation thing at 6. But no, I knocked, as I was entering on Huntsman, I knocked the Metamorphosis down to 4th, and then down to 2nd. People were like, if it's at 2nd, you might as well make it 1st. And so I like changed and shuffled and simplified some things to where it's like, yeah, I think I can actually get this into 1st level without being too overwhelming. So yeah, that's a good example of how things have shifted dramatically, specifically as a result of playtesting. And I have like, I don't know, 12 playtesters credited in there already.
Your credits list is already impressive.
Yeah, big props to Surfing Bird and Jonas and like all the other like mods and folks who kind of kickstarted that brewery Discord. It has been insanely helpful.
Is there anything else about the Huntsman that you want to be mentioned that you feel we haven't touched upon yet?
Oh, I will say, I've kind of accidentally become a weird area ability guy. I've gotten some really good feedback on some of the abilities that I've got in that vein. So, like, one of the crowd pleasers is Holy Chakram as an example. Let me scroll through and snag it here. So yeah, Night Watchers, who are slinging both like holy magic and dark curses, one of their options is straight up inspired by the cross sub-weapon from Castlevania, kind of like a piercing boomerang deal. So it's a 10x1 line that targets 3 enemies in the area. So that's kind of like a power limiter. You can't hit 10 things with it because you throw it out in a 10x1 line and it does damage. And then, I'll just read it. The chakram lingers in the furthest square until you call it back as a free maneuver or until the end of the turn. It then travels back to you along a second line, dealing its damage again.
Oh.
So you can get pretty creative with it, where it's like, oh, maybe you just want to do like a basic send it through a few guys and then back through those same guys. But if you're like, for example, trying to knock out a whole bunch of minions, then you might throw it through one line and then dart over somewhere else and then call it back and it goes through a different line, so you hit 6 different guys.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's that, and then I have kind of like a I imagine it sort of like a lightsaber throw where it's a 2 burst, but it only hits enemies in like the outer ring. It doesn't hit the ones adjacent to you. And it incentivizes you to kind of use your like force push pull ability to line things up there. And you also, as a huntsman, have a really big bonus to disengage, which lets you reposition more freely. So you can kind of line up like a ring of enemies to hit with that. And yeah, I've been having fun coming up with unique frameworks for abilities like that, especially since like so many of the huntsman abilities are capable of use with ranged weapons. So trying to come up with some more fun kind of tactical shapes for things, and it also means I can have some more interesting modifiers for spending cruelty. So like as an example on that Holy Chakram, if you spend Cruelty, then instead of targeting 3 enemies in the line, you just hit 1, and it deals damage to them 3 times. So I'm imagining like you're chucking this spinning boomerang type thing, and it's just buzzsaw grinding into the one poor bastard.
One of my solo monsters was on the receiving end of that one.
Yeah, they were definitely abusing the somebody had applied some damage weakness. It's like, oh, I have this thing that hits 3 times.
Yeah. That was a nasty combo.
Yeah, came up with their own blender strategy.
We're coming up on the hour already, and I always ask my guests to bring some kind of recommendation that they want the listeners to check out or be aware of. So what have you brought?
Oh yeah, I was waiting for this. I cannot recommend enough, especially because, like, in this space, I've been talking with a lot of like 20-somethings, people born in this millennium, who may not know about this. Lesser known and much underappreciated movie, My Cousin Vinny. This has been like my family's favorite movie for like 20 years now. It is a riot. It's Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei, and it's so good. It's so good. It's like you get the clash of cultures, like New Yorkers down in Alabama, and I think actually I saw Legal Eagle talking up the movie because it's like relatively accurate to actual court procedures, and
wow,
the plot is excellent. Like the pacing, just oh man, it's such a good movie. And it's from like '93 or something, so people may not know about it. And then I don't know. This is probably less underappreciated, but I gotta go Deep Rock Galactic. That was my other big COVID hobby, besides getting into cocktails. A lot of people got into Animal Crossing because it launched like right about that time.
Yeah.
Deep Rock Galactic. Oh my goodness. I'm sure it's super cheap at this point. It's a game in the vein of like Left 4 Dead or like Vermintide. It's a 4-player class-based co-op deal. It's a first-person shooter. But unlike those other games I just mentioned, combat is only one element of it. It has procedurally generated caves to go spelunking in as these like space mining dwarves. And again, like the pacing is so good in that you have waves of space bugs crawling out of the tunnels every so often, but you're also like finding your way through these dark caverns and like managing your light situation and like using different gadgets to clamber up on the walls and mine out minerals and like interact with different like mining machinery and objectives and things. And so it is just super consistently entertaining, great design, like mechanically and in regards to the tone. It's like way positive, even if you just jump in with randoms online. There's good communication tools, even if you can't chat or type. Yeah, can't recommend Deep Rock Galactic enough.
Two solid suggestions, I think, or recommendations.
Yeah, both with dwarves. Space dwarves and Joe Pesci.
Kyle, it has been it's been really interesting and fun having you on Goblin Points, and you've kind of brought me. I wasn't too interested in the Huntsman, but then, especially now, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing the rest of the class. I think it's really grown on me, because I'm not usually the ranger type myself, but maybe after all.
Yeah, maybe that's the pitch. The ranger for people who don't like ranger.
But it's been really great having you on.
It's been a blast being on, and also joining your playtests for your Lookout monsters. So
yeah,
I'm sure we'll be crossing paths more soon.
Thank you so much for coming on, Kyle. I mentioned that I'm not usually interested in a ranger as a fantasy, but the design and flavor of the Huntsman has kind of won me around. I think there are some cool characters in that class. The Huntsman is currently crowdfunding on BackerKit. Link can be found in the link section. I want to thank Anton Cremola and Ananam for submitting questions for Kyle. If you want to be featured on Goblin Points or know of someone else who should be, leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, or send me an email on tips@goblinpoints.com. Links to everything, including this script, can be found in the show notes and on goblinpoints.com. You can support my work by becoming a patron member. Paying members get to submit questions for my upcoming guests here on Goblin Points, and you get access to premium features on Stall. Stall is a digital toolset for playing and running Draw Steel, digital hero sheets, encounter builder, monster lookup, the complete rules text, and more, such as the Stall Supplement Index, a comprehensive list of all the supplements being published for Draw Steel in one convenient place. Visit stall.app, STAWL.app. Next episode is on the 25th. I'll be joined by Chaos OS, developer of the Draw Steel system for Foundry and the new Draw Steel modules published by Metamorphic Studios. See you next time. Snakis.